The P-38 Lightning was one of the most famous flying machines of World War II and changed the course of the war in many ways. How did a plane with two rear engines change the fun? Did you know that its interesting design gave pilots far more maneuverability than any other flying machine of the era? Did you know they are moreover utilized for observation and combat missions? So sit back and let's investigate this curious point together. What's so extraordinary about the P-38? How does a plan influence war? And more vitally, how did airborne fighting alter in World War II? In the event that you enjoyed this video, it would be ideal if you subscribe, like, and share. P-38 Lightning, Revolutionary WWII Air Warfare. The P-38 Lightning, close to the P-47 Thunderbolt and P-51 Colt, stood out as a World War II fighter for the U.S. Army. Discuss about 2.5 times the fighters of the Corps, USAAC, which are most accurate for the flight required. Lockheed met a 1937 determination for a high-altitude interceptor with vigorous weapons and quick climb capabilities. Circular Proposition X-608, written by, to begin with, Lieutenants Benjamin S. Kelsey and Gordon P. Saville, laid out the requirement for a twin-engine interceptor with a key center on threatening airship interferences at tall altitudes. Kelsey and Saville named the Interceptor to get around the USAAC's monopoly on combat equipment and single-engine restrictions. They aimed for an aircraft that could carry more than 450 kg, 1,000 lb, of lethal equipment and improve combat effectiveness in fights and hostile situations. The unique challenge is to achieve maximum wind speeds of 360 mph, 580 km/h, at altitude and climb to 20,000 feet, 6,100 m, in less than 6 minutes, under solid decision. Under the direction of Corridor Hibbard and Clarence Kelly Johnson, Lockheed investigated different twin-engine formats sometime before, settling on twin booms to house motors, tail get-together, and turbo superchargers, with a central nacelle for the pilot and weapon, a one-of-a-kind arrangement for its time. Centralizing weapons within the nose departed from the standard in U.S. airplanes, killing restrictions of wing-mounted weapons and empowering more prominent shooting ranges. The P-38's inventive utilization of stainless steel and flush-riveted aluminum boards marked a turning point, as did its accomplishment as the primary military airplane to outperform 400 mph, 640 km/h, in level flight. Flight trials, Lockheed clinched victory on June 23, 1937. Construction commenced in July 1938, and the XP-38 took its maiden flight under Ben Kelsey's command on January 27, 1939. Despite losing this prototype in a crash at Mitchell Field, New York, with Kelsey at the helm, the USAAC pressed on, ordering 13 planes for service testing on April 27th. Kelsey survived, remaining pivotal to the Lightning program. Before deployment, Lockheed addressed challenges like aerodynamic compressibility and tail buffeting. The most daunting issue arose from the loss of dive control due to aerodynamic compressibility. In late spring 1941, USAAC Major Signa A. Gilka encountered severe trouble while diving the Lightning from 30,000 feet, 920 m, at high speeds. The aircraft's tail shook violently, and the nose plunged almost vertically at around 320 mph, 519 me. Gilka recovered, and the tail buffet problem was resolved with new fillets improving airflow. It took engineers 17 months to pinpoint the cause of the Lightning's nose drop. Testing at the Ames Laboratory Wind Tunnel by the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, revealed shock waves forming at transonic speeds over the wing leading edges. Though the nose drop issue remained unresolved, Lockheed installed dive recovery flaps under each wing in 1944. These flaps slowed the P-38 sufficiently for pilots to maintain control during high-speed dives. Allied orders Within the walk of 1940, the French and British, utilizing the Anglo-French Procuring Committee, set a course of action to include up to 667 P-38s for USD $100 million. These were categorized as Illustrate 322F for the French and Appear 322B for the British. These flying machines were anticipated to be an assortment of the P-38E. After the collapse of France in June 1940, the British acknowledged the total course of action and consigned the flying machine to the title Lightning. By June 1941, the war benefit had reasons to reassess their past flying machine prerequisites based on experiences from the Battle of Britain and Luftwaffe Torrent operations. Britain's disillusionment with the Lockheed course of action became clear in July. On May 5, 1941, they redressed the contract. This alteration included passing on 143 airplanes, as at to begin with shown to be doled out Lightning Check I, while 524 would encounter upgrades to U.S. standard P-38E determinations, ensuring the most excellent speed of 415 miles per hour. 668 kilometers h at 20,000 feet, 6,100 mph, to be named Lightning II for British benefit. Afterward that summer, famous exam and compel test pilots returned from Burbank with unfavorable input concerning the tail swell issue, driving the British to cancel all but 3 of the 143 Lightning IIs. These 3 P-38Es were reassigned from the USAAC to serve with the famous Australian talk about COMPEL, RAAF. Number 1. Photographic Perception Unit. The essential plane arrived on October 31, 1942. It worked viably until lost in a landing occurrence on Famous 2, 1944, at Kumali Stream in Australia's northern region. The Moment flying machine had a less striking career, working as it were from September 4, 1942 to December 18, 1942, sometime recently being resigned. The third Lightning arrived on February 27, 1943. It remained operational throughout the year until misplaced in a wheels-up landing on December 10, 1943. Even though it was not at first planned for photographic observation, the P-38E was adjusted for this part by the RAF due to circumstances. Discussions about conveying extra airships to extraordinary Britain turned bitter and slowed down. In any case, after the assault on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, circumstances changed drastically, inciting the U.S. government to order roughly 40 of the Model 322s for the defense of the West Coast. Thus, from January 1942 onwards, all British Lightnings were conveyed to the USAAC. Numerous of the 524 Lightning IIs requested by the British were prepared with more vigorous F-10 Allison motors as they became accessible, and all were fitted with wing pylons for fuel tanks or bombs. These overhauled airships were sent to the Pacific as USAAC F-5A Surveillance or P-38G Warrior models. One result of the fizzled British-French arrangement was embracing the title Lightning for the airplane. Initially, Lockheed had named the plane Atalanta from Greek mythology, which was in line with the company's convention of naming airplanes after legendary or ethereal figures, but the RAF's assignment prevailed. To begin with, Lightning entered dynamic benefit was the F4 form, a P-38E fitted with 4K17 cameras rather than weapons. They joined the USAAC 8th Photographic Squadron in Australia on April 4, 1942. Mediterranean Operations. Early results within the Mediterranean theater of operations displayed a mix of victories and mishaps. Whereas particular P-38 pilots accomplished numerous triumphs and achieved expert status, others were brought down due to the need for involvement or critical limitations. In common, the Mediterranean theater saw the most noteworthy P-38 casualties. The essential part of the P-38 in North Africa centered on escorting aircraft. However, these warriors were locked in transport flying machines. As the campaign advanced, they once in a while embraced ground assault missions. In any case, When included in escort obligations, P-38 squadrons confronted defenselessness to assaults from over by German warriors, abusing favorable positions and timing. Initial ineffectual strategic procedures inside American units compelled P-38s to preserve nearness to planes instead of receiving a more emphatic, cautious position or clearing the airspace ahead for planes, leading to various misfortunes among American pilots. Subsequently, all deployable P-38s in Incredible Britain were dispatched to North Africa to support squadron quality in reaction to rising losses. Following this calming difficulty, the American administration upgraded strategies, giving the P-38 more prominent independence in combat engagements. On April 5, 1943, a gather of 26 P-38Fs claimed the annihilation of 31 adversary airplanes, essentially contributing to the foundation of discuss predominance within the locale and gaining the German moniker Der Gabelschwanz Teufel, the fork-tailed devil. An assessment of the P-38 among German warrior pilots was changed. Whereas a few respected it as a simple target, others enormously lauded it, recognizing it as an impressive foe meriting respect. Although the P-38 demonstrated viability, it was hooked on a few issues. Its Allison motors were inclined to mechanical disappointments such as tossed poles, valve glitches, and fouled start plugs. In contrast, their intercoolers regularly cracked beneath maintained tall boost and turbocharger controllers once in a while solidified, driving to disastrous breakdowns. Second Lieutenant Jim Kunkel of the 370th Warrior Amass, reflecting on his encounters, looked into the primary challenge of missing cockpit warming. The basic issue for us was the necessity for warmth interior the cockpit. Amid high-altitude missions, the cold was strong. Unlike aircraft groups with warmed suits, our endeavors with heated clothing were ineffective. The sole source of warmth within the cockpit discussed was ducted from the motors, which advertised negligible alleviation. P-38 pilots persevered through serious inconvenience, encountering deadness and frostbite within their limits, and in a few cases, requiring help to exit the cockpit upon returning from missions. Pacific Campaign. The P-38 found its greatest and most effective use in the Pacific theater, where its attributes proved well-suited, combining extensive range with the reliability of dual engines for extended missions over ocean expanses. Employed across various roles, it notably excelled in escorting bombers at altitudes ranging from 18,000 to 25,000 feet, 5,500 to 7,600 meters. In the tropical low altitudes, freezing cockpit temperatures were a non-issue. Instead, cockpits often became excessively hot. Pilots assigned to low-altitude missions frequently flew wearing minimal gear, opting for shorts, tennis shoes, and a parachute. While the P-38 couldn't match the maneuverability of the Mitsubishi A6M0 and other Japanese fighters below speeds of 200 mph, 320 km/h, its superior speed combined with a strong rate of climb enabled effective energy tactics, allowing for multiple high-speed passes at targets. Furthermore, its tightly concentrated guns proved even more lethal against lightly armored Japanese aircraft compared to German counterparts. The concentrated parallel barrage of bullets enabled aerial victories at considerably longer distances than fighters equipped with wing-mounted guns. Dick Bong, the top-scoring U.S. air ace of World War II, credited with 40 victories in P-38s, often adopted a direct approach toward his targets, ensuring accurate hits. On occasion, he flew through the debris of his targets, even colliding with an enemy aircraft, which was claimed as a probable victory. The twin Allison engines performed admirably in the Pacific theater. Many of the top Army aces in the region flew P-38s. On May 29, 1942, a squadron of 25 P-38s commenced operations in the Aleutian Islands, Alaska. The fighter's extended range made it well-suited for operations across the vast 1,200-mile, 1,800 kilometers island chain, where it remained stationed for the duration of the conflict. The Aleutians provided a rugged environment for testing the new aircraft under real combat conditions. More losses of Lightnings occurred due to severe weather and other environmental factors than enemy engagements. Instances existed where mesmerized pilots, flying over gray seas and skies for hours, inadvertently crashed into the water. On August 9, 1942, two P-38Es of the 343rd Fighter Group, 11th Air Force, encountered and destroyed a pair of Japanese Kawanishi H-6K Mavis flying boats after completing a 1,000-mile, 1,600-kilometer long-range patrol, marking the first Japanese aircraft shot down by Lightnings. On April 18, 1943, 14 P-38 pilots from the 70th and 339th Fighter Squadron's 347th Fighter Group executed a critical mission. Decoded Japanese messages revealed the schedule for a visit by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the Imperial Japanese Navy, to the front lines. Flying at extremely low altitudes of 10 to 50 feet, 3 to 15 m, above the ocean to evade detection, they intercepted and downed the bombers carrying the admiral and his staff, altering the course of the war. The P-38's service history presents a mixed array of results, often reflecting more on its strategic utilization than on inherent flaws of the aircraft. As a fighter of World War II, the Lightning's impact remains unparalleled. Over 10,000 P-38s, comprising 18 different models, were manufactured during the war, conducting over 130,000 missions across theaters worldwide. P-38 pilots claimed more Japanese aircraft than any other fighter, and as reconnaissance aircraft, they captured 90% of the aerial imagery over Europe. Perhaps Colonel Ben Kelsey, a test pilot, encapsulated the aircraft's legacy best, describing it as a comfortable old cluck that could fly like hell, fight like a wasp upstairs, and land like a butterfly.